Hey guys, it's Mark Souvenir from 3L Capital, CEO. Good to, I guess, see everybody again. The Coppernico team, Ivan Bebek, CEO. Ivan, back in May 2024, seems like just yesterday, 3L Capital co-led financing of $19.4 million Canadian at 50 cents. The markets have really changed now, so happy that we got that over the line. But the time has come, Ivan. You're about to be listed. We're about to start trading. I'm sure investors are waiting in anticipation. There's been some significant transactions recently with BHP and Filo looking to get together. This morning, there was the announcement of Goldfields of Nosisco, again, supporting why we at 3L wanted to be involved in this from the beginning. Was large deposits, large targets, large potential in safe jurisdictions. Eventually, even though they're usually extremely slow, the super seniors, super majors will come to the party and take a look. You will get into some of your management team that actually comes from some of the super majors that might be in the neighborhood or might be interested. I'll leave that to you. I won't steal all the thunder. But with that also said, you've got $19.4 million in the treasury. Would love an update on that. How far does that take you? What does this company look like? Should you find some smoke or hopefully some fire at discovery? Where do we go from there? And then obviously we'd like to get into a bit more of the technical details on trades and settlements and where do I get my shares and what happens upon listing. And of course, the last thing we'll need to know is what's the actual ticker you've secured. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, Ivan, to give us a refresher, take us back from May, walk us to now, and then walk us to December, I guess.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. And it's a pleasure to be here. It's extremely exciting for us. This is coming up on almost a decade of pursuing this incredible opportunity, which is in the picture behind me and in my backdrop. I think the most important thing that we're doing here, besides listing tomorrow, is we're drilling. So I'm going to give a quick overview of the company to those who have not heard the story. I'm not going to go into great detail. I'm going to keep it very high level. I'm going to touch a bit on the team, some recent events, as you mentioned, with the majors. And then I'm going to get into the early indications from drilling. We've just finished our second hole. We're about to start our third and talk about the capital structure and how that's going to look and what's free trading and when we expect to trade tomorrow morning under what symbol. So just bear with me as I share my screen and we will get started. So by introduction, this is a copper-focused exploration company that's pursued one of the world's larger exploration analogs. It's an analog to Las Bambas, the 11th largest copper-producing mine in the world. We took this on from kicking first rocks in 2015. Took us about $40 million to get here. And finally, late last year, we were able to gain social access and drill permits in April of this year, which led to a financing of $19.4 million. Obviously, that money's starting to be spent, but we'll talk about how long that lasts and the incredibly strong position we are in financially as we take on a very strategic approach to exploring the asset. For those of you who have not met me, I've been part of some great successes, not only finding mines, but also selling exploration projects. I like to say, outside of being very strategic and driven with a lot of ambition, understanding how to monetize exploration success is one of my biggest strengths. I treat this company as a shareholder first because I've got over $5.5–6 million invested into this company through its predecessor, Oren Resources, where it was spun out from, but also in recent financings that participated as well. So the opportunity or the vision for our company is to go make that world-class discovery. And this can go two ways. If we are very successful and we make that discovery, monetizing the share price and potentially selling it to a major would be our ultimate goal. Second to that, we see a lot of opportunity across the sector with some really good undervalued assets. If we were not in the position to sell it for the price we wanted for the asset, we'd likely consolidate a few other advanced assets to create a much bigger entity. So the optionality we have of a big discovery is quite substantial. In our effort to do this, we've had a chance to add some incredible senior executives from BHP, one of the largest miners in the world, who's recently just purchasing Filo Mining. And this is kind of the mindset we wanted at the board level, on the strategy level, as we went and explored a major exploration opportunity at this point of the copper market. The last 8 months have been extremely busy, and the minute we got a chance to press go, we certainly pressed it, from getting the access agreements, raising money, and getting the drill turning. I'd like to say the next 8 months are going to be equally or even more compelling, because we should get our first drill results sometime at the end of September, and they should be consecutive for the next 12 or 36 months, depending on how the project drills. The drills are currently turning as we speak today. And that's truly the number one way you can benefit as a shareholder, is by finding something new, a brand new discovery. And in these early stages of drilling something that's never been tested for copper before, that has such a big signature, it's one of the most compelling investment opportunities to invest into. Not going to talk too much about the team. I've spoken of this at length. We are very well organized from a very prudent exploration team that spends a lot of times with boots on the ground. The two people that joined us since we did get our axes are Keenan Jennings and MJ McQuay. Both of them had senior executive positions with BHP. Keenan was the former VP of exploration for BHP, and MJ McQuay was involved in the running of $8 billion worth of projects and managing over 300 people as projects were being built. They both also sat on the investment committee from BHP, and that's an important pedigree to have. We want to behave like a major with the quality of what we do, but the efficiency and maneuverability of a junior. So in the world of being an entrepreneur and a financier, my job, not only to go find it, is to surround myself with the team of the smartest people I can in the world to monetize it properly. And that's why they're on the team, and they're helping us guide our exploration and other efforts that we're going to take on with this project. Tim Kingsley is our VP of Exploration. He's accompanied by Christian Rios, our SVP of Corporate Development. Extensive experience in Peru with base metals, has the hunger and the ambition of a geologist in his mid-40s, trying to make his big mark. And he's working with people such as Antonio Rivas, who also formerly was a senior executive at BHP, who was the VP of Geosciences, which is quality control. So we've outfitted our company with some of the best people we could in the world at a very reasonable cost, with the most expensive people on the board and the most active people in the field. So it's a really, really well put together company from that perspective. I'm not going to talk too much about copper, because we've been really, really, supplied with a lot of information about the refurbishment of the planet. Everything is switching to more of an electric society. That electrification has massive demand. We've all seen the copper price volatile in the last 6 to 12 months. But the next 12 months, it goes into deficit, as you can see here on this projected chart. Does the economy affect it? Do various macro indications affect it? They sure do, but it does not help or affect the supply, which is what we think is the challenge. What we're looking for here to accommodate with the copper deficit that's going forward is quality copper with infrastructure and really good grade. And that's what we're targeting in our big skarn system. So the goal is to make the big discovery. The analog to Las Bambas is substantial. It's not next door, but it's 200 kilometers to the east of our project. But getting something even half that size in this environment could be extremely beneficial to shareholders. And that's what we're chasing in terms of scale. This is a snapshot of where the project occurs. It's in southern Peru. It's in a place called Ayacucho. There's several other major mines here alongside Las Bambas that draw a lot of similarities to some of our targets that we're drilling. Some really well-known mines such as Tintaya, Constancia, Las Chancas. These all sit in the same style of mineralization, the same style of rocks, and all of the surface work we've done to date has been a very, very complementary analog to all of those mines next door. The history here is extensive. Back in 2001, the opportunity was first identified by an iron ore company. They got to drilling it in 2013. They drilled on the far east side of the project looking for iron. They never assayed their rocks because they saw the presence of copper. We had subsequently assayed those rocks, and we've done about $4 million worth of exploration to assemble this land position and prepare it for drilling. Skarns are notably variable in scale. They're also known to be really high grade, and those are the things that appeal us most about this project. And without belaboring the minute by minute effort to get to this point, you're coming in today or looking at an opportunity that's had 9 years of thinking, exploring, and getting this company ready for drilling. So it's a very, very, very important time and point of investment for this large scale opportunity. The thing that attracted us most was first off was the geology. There's an intrusion interacting with Ferrobamba limestones and other sediments. And that's where in purple, a lot of the mineralization is occurring. Most of our project is covered by volcanic cover, but there is areas where there's outcropping mineralization with impressive widths of grade and potential for the third dimension to exist in scale. We are comparing what we've mapped so far to all of the mines next door. We host all the same rock types that they do. We also have the same age of mineralizing event, which is Eocene, that all of those mines next door occur in. So give us the right address, the right scale, and drawing some analogs here to Las Bambas itself. We have 3 different intrusive complexes that are surrounded by the Ferrobamba limestone, which is the predominant majority of where the Las Bambas mineralization, skarn mineralization occurs. We're showing you an exact same scale map to show you the size of our intrusions and our limestone potential context as they have there. The fact that most of ours is covered is going to give us a lot of mystery, and it might give us some time before we get to the right drill holes, but we're certainly on our way now, and I'll talk a bit about what those holes look like and what we're seeing in the geology so far. When you look beneath surface, you've got to use things such as electrical currents and magnetic currents to try and get signatures worth testing underneath these covers. We have an extensive about 10 kilometers of magnetic, which would indicate magnetite exoskarn, which is carrying the grade, and also chargeability, which would equal endoskarn and porphyry type of gold, copper gold mineralization to give us dissemination. These two signatures overlap perfectly, and they give us a chance to have continuous mineralization in numerous spots. We are going to be drilling right now, or we are currently drilling on this lower big intrusion. We're drilling on the west side in an area called Corrales, and we're going to work our way around both sides of the context towards Furasso, where the historical drill holes have occurred. The trenching has been impressive. We've trenched over 200 meters of about 0.5% copper over at Furasso, where there are historical drill holes. We've also trenched 109 meters of 0.67% copper over at Corrales, where we're currently drilling. As you can see on the map here on the right, there's extensive volcanic cover. It's about 5 to 40 meters thick on average, but it does give us indications of which ways to go and drill and look to find more and more mineralization similar to those trenches on surface that we see there. The historical drilling is the third dimension confidence builder. This gives us a lot of potential in the model. These holes were targeted towards drilling actually iron ore, and they had hit some incredible intercepts, as you can see here, with over 100 meters of about 0.5% copper gold equivalent. You go even higher. So this gave us a third dimension. We think this exists with various signals that we see around the first 7 kilometers of strike length that we're testing. This is a map showing you a plan view. This is where we're drilling over here on the left. We're actually drilling the furthest way we possibly can away from the known mineralization that's outcropping on surface. Many have asked us, why not start over here where there's existing drill holes and a lot of prolific mineralization to go and chase? We are permitting that area. We're not permitted in that area yet, but we also have a lot of capital and we can drill 30 holes around this area. We don't need to start in the most obvious area because we don't know which area is going to be the most prolific to date. So we're starting as far as we can away, and we're starting to see very early indications of a few things. The right geology, we're seeing skarn mineralization, we're seeing the limestone intrusion and contact with the intrusion. We're also seeing copper in the first holes that we're drilling. So as far as yes or no, is this a real system? Is the model real? Does it have copper in it? Right now, the answer is overwhelmingly yes. The next step and the challenge is going to be, as it is with all skarns, is learning the orientation beneath the surface. It's going to take some drilling to do that. We're finishing hole 2. We're about to start hole 3, and we're going to make our way around the intrusive contacts, as you see here, all the way around this halo of where the limestone is interacting with the intrusion, and that's where we believe the skarn mineralization to be most current. This is a visualization of a exposed skarn body about 7 kilometers north of where we're working. This is the rusty color here. That's where the mineralization occurs. This is the intrusion on the left. This is the marble that we see on the right. And there's some mining at it. It's about 200 meters down this cliff. And we had observed bornite at the bottom. So we believe there's at least 400 meters of vertical extent of mineralization to occur. As you can see in this image, there's a very thin layer of volcanic cover, a lot of grade seeping through on surface, also peripheral above the limestone. So when we see that in our exploration and we're starting to drill across skarn, we get extremely encouraged. So we're very, very excited about these next steps as we start our early holes. And our goal is to get at least 7 to 10 holes in before the end of the year, so we could have a really good understanding of what this could be in terms of an exploration opportunity. The infrastructure is really strong for this area. There's a high tensile power lines that go through the property. There are roads, paved roads to get here. There are 2 towns nearby for our workforce. There are multiple sources of water, and we have very moderate terrain. So it's a really good setup for a very profitable environment to have something that could be worth a lot, especially if you're talking about grades around 0.5% copper. We've been active in the communities for over 7 years. We've had a chance to live in the communities and bring in various agricultural programs that are long-term sustainable well after we leave. This community success is truly our success. If they're happy, then we're happy. We get to move our project forward. And I believe the last recent events we've done have given us that opportunity to really go after a lot more permits, and be very, very cooperative with the community and provide a lot of jobs as we go on and take on the exploration of this project. These are some of the programs we've been involved in. We have $4 million US of additional grants we're pursuing from the government to bring into these communities with various agricultural programs. We've taken a very long-term view here based on the potential and the probability and the evidence to date from the exploration we've seen on surface and what we're hoping to see in the drill bits here in the near term. We currently have access to the Huancasancos community. We're working through the additional communities here to expand our permit. Our targets go well beyond the Huancasancos community, but within the Huancasancos community itself, we have a huge endowment of targets to go after to go and make those world-class discoveries as seen on the major mining belt next door. So just to give everyone a scope of the drilling, we're going to drill down to 300 true meters. Each hole will average around 400 meters drilled on an angle. Everything is targeting open pit mineralization, which would be the most valuable type. Skarn and porphyry targets both exist here, with our focus being on skarn mineralization first. I mentioned earlier we'll drill 6 or 7 holes by year end. We actually plan to drill 16 holes by year end, and the company's financed to drill at least 30 holes and has working capital into February of 2026 with a very active marketing budget that's also included with the exploration efforts. So we're in a really, really good position to drill extensive holes if needed to make the first discovery hole if we don't get it early in the first few holes. So when you look at this company and you look at the investment, there's a tremendous amount of time. There's incredible people from some of the largest mining companies in the world have recently joined the board. The scale of what we're looking for would make a world-class copper opportunity if we're successful in an environment where copper is going into deficit. The age of the rocks, the style of the rocks, the mineralization of the rocks is really there. It's almost an expanding discovery story, but there's so many areas that have never seen a drill hole before, and we're making those first holes. We're seeing copper, we're seeing skarn, we're seeing the model hold up to what we think is there. So now it's just about drilling grades and width, and that's going to be one of the most exciting exploration companies I'm aware of globally based on our treasury, our longevity, and the opportunity what we might be able to find here. Our share structure, we have 177 million shares out. We started with about 112 million shares when we spun it out of Orin Resources. We had done 2 financings, one at 30 cents. I was a large participant in that funding, one at 15 cents because we didn't quite have our social access permits. And then our IPO was done at 50 cents per share, as Mark mentioned earlier. In May, we raised $19.4 million. Cash balance is a bit less than 18. It's approximately $16 million as I speak to you guys live today. But the company is extremely well funded to February 26th of working capital with very active marketing budgets and drilling. We may drill more holes than 30 holes, and we may use some of those extra months, and we can use that capital intelligently. But our goal right now is to make a discovery and use the longevity of capital to look for a premium in our share price for shareholders if we start to make the discovery before we go on to take more capital. Skarns are drill intensive. We're aware of that. We're very well funded. And I think in this marketplace, in this environment, having a strong treasury is almost as important as the discovery, as well as the timing of the copper market and where things are headed. Of the 177 million shares issued, 38 million shares or 39 million shares from the financing are not free trading until around September 16th. 17 million shares owned by Teck have a 1-year restriction on them. And then 11 and change million shares are owned by Newmont. They are free trading. So we have some very, very good, great shareholders from the corporate side. Own about 3.5% of the company myself. Close associates include really, really some of the best natural resource investors in the world. Very notable people. I'm not going to give you all the names here, but people that could really help this become a tremendous success if we do start to make the discovery. As far as how many shares we have out, we're going to look to try and create as much liquidity and price performance as we can to give a lot of investors access to the actual share price to be able to trade in and out of it. And we're also looking at that as the quality of investors we have. And I'd argue we have one of the best shareholder bases for a major exploration project in the company today. We will trade under the symbol COPR tomorrow morning on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Your stock should automatically convert and be able to be traded on the TSC. If it's not, I would encourage you to contact us, info@copernicometals.com, and we will expeditiously accommodate you with whatever's needed to make sure your shares are tradable and free trading in your own personal accounts if they're entitled to be so. If you have any questions to do with that, to do with your shares, or if you don't see them tradable right away, please contact us. The Toronto Stock Exchange main board is very, very, very accessible by US investors. but we are still going to be pursuing an OTC symbol initially. And if we're successful with our drilling in the next 6 months, we will apply to upgrade to an NYSE Amex symbol as well for increased visibility to attract more and more larger institutional and high net worth investors as we go on to this major discovery opportunity, this perfect timing for copper. So that's the story. That's the overview of the company. And at this point here, I'm going to open it up to ask or answer any questions that I have from Mark or from any of the viewers on this current webinar.
Sorry, I was just on mute there. I guess Margarita, just before you jump to the questions, I see we have a few online. Ivan, I just don't think you touched on the capital table, ownership of yourself and management. I think it's very significant. You guys are aligned. You've been there for a long time. You've written checks along the way, but maybe just give us the aggregate on your total number of shares that you and your family own, and that the management insiders in total own.
So as you can see here, we own at least, we're at about 5-6% of the company. But if I take in friends, family, and core people, we have about 40% of the company with a handful of investors, as well as friends and family in that tighter percentage of the company. These are shares that were bought. My average per share was $1 per share from the orange days and all the investments I've made here. And as I said before, that's why we treat this as shareholders first and a company's performance second. I have no idea where the stock's going to start trading. Nobody does. It's the middle of summer, but I do have an idea where it could go if we're successful with the drill bit. There's no shortage of investors that have been here for some time waiting for this to trade. There's also a lot of them who missed the last few financing rounds because they couldn't buy the restricted shares of the company. Again, this is an extremely well-financed company with a major exploration target that could be drilled here in the perfect timing of the market, or what we feel is the market going forward in the next 6 to 12 months. And that's going to be the most exciting time as a shareholder to own shares in this company. So on that note, Mark, we have a huge commitment here financially. This is something we've been investing into since 2015. So that kind of alignment with shareholders is pristine. And that's going to be where you see every decision made, what's best for shareholders, to monetize any success that we have here, and also to be very strategic thinking at the board level with the major mining companies and the several who did not make it into this round of financing. Teck, being a major recent shareholder, is an incredible validation. We've had great feedback and great comments back and forth with Teck since they've made the investment. They saw the opportunity early. They agreed to the terms that we wanted versus a joint venture. We wanted to take on an equity partner, and we think they'll be very accretive for us moving forward. But there's certainly other major miners that have been pursuing this asset for the years prior. Notably BHP, certain executives had joined the board prior to the company getting its drill access and permits, who had retired from BHP, which is the best compliment we can do in the third party, to have the most unbiased interest in the exploration opportunity from the science perspective.
Thanks, Ivan. There's one Q&A question here from Michael Chung. It says, when do you anticipate receiving drill permits for the Ferrazo area? Are access agreements outstanding there?
Yeah, so our community access agreement covers that area, the current permits with the Cerro Arequipa. And so we just are working towards accommodating that permit so we could potentially, or we can move some of our pads over to that area. So we would anticipate that in an optimistic timeframe to be the end of this year, but likely first quarter is a reasonable conservative timeline to get access to drill there. It will be well within our 30 holes that we currently are funded to drill and our working capital, which is obviously February 2026. So some of the holes that we plan to drill in this first phase will be reserved for that area to expand on that area as well. So it's well on its way. In addition, we are pursuing a semi-detailed EIA, which will give us the ability to drill 200 holes or more than that. Right now, we can drill 48 holes from 38 pads in the first polygon that we've assembled. We are exploring outside of the main area because there's areas we have not been to yet, and we're learning things in the first few drill holes that are showing some new perspective angles to new other mineralization nearby. So we're going to look to expand and get new polygons as well. This is no question, it's a major system, extremely target rich. And there's a lot of things that are starting to come together now that we're actually working on the ground again. And we're seeing a lot of more opportunities that will complement the target rich pipeline that we have. From an exploration perspective, it's quite overwhelming in a very positive way to have so many large scale targets and so many rooms to make that larger discovery. But as far as Fieraso goes, it's underway. We're working towards it, and hopefully by year end or early in Q1 of next year.
Thank you. We have a next question from Glenn Gibbons. It's a two-part question. Elaborate further on drill strategy, as I heard you are drilling the not obvious locations to start. Number two would be, what is Tech's day-to-day involvement, aka any leverage of their technical team? Do you have a ROFR on future financings?
First comment there is, we're not necessarily drilling the most or the least obvious target. We're drilling for knowledge, and that's a key term to understand. This is an undrilled skarn system that has a thin layer of cover over top of the rock, so we can't really see the geology and the structures beneath them. We can see which way they project. We can trace them through geophysics. So our strategy right now is to drill and find the orientation of the model, and also find the presence of copper. And I say right now we're seeing orientation, starting to see which way it goes in these early few holes. We'll need at least 5 or 6 holes to have a very good handle. And we're also seeing the presence of copper. I don't know grades and widths, and I wouldn't comment if I did. I just know that the system is certainly pregnant with copper and it's mineralized. As far as where we go next with the drill bit, the data that we get in each hole is so revealing to us. It's going to shape which way the drill goes and what vectors we're going to use to follow those bigger intercepts of grade that we're looking for to validate early a world-class major discovery. Second part of the question with Tech's involvement, we just had a call with them a few days ago. There'll be a monthly call at the very least with technical collaboration with their team. We will take advice. We'll show them which way we're going and why. And if there's any ways that we can improve what we're doing or any ideas that are worth taking, we will incorporate those into our program. We have a very deep technical team, but we're very humble. It's geology, it's early, and they have active exploration and a mine they're part of in Peru. So they have a very good knowledge base. There is no ROFR at this time. They can maintain their current percentage of ownership, and that's a very, very good working relationship between both sides. But we plan to be in touch with them on a monthly basis at the very least, or as needed. They're a great shareholder, and so far they've been very complimentary with feedback they've given us on what we've drilled so far and what we're looking to do with our drill strategy going forward.
Thank you. The next question is from Pete Sexton. What happens to my present stock position of CPP-MF? So I would say, as you said before, contact info@coppernicometals.com, and you will be able to answer questions properly for that. The next question from Mario Vitro.
Just before you go to Mario's question, your shares in CPP-MF should show up differently in your account once we're listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange tomorrow. It may take 24 hours to 48 hours for the QSIP for the number and the coding of your shares to reflect that. If you're an American investor, it should also be impacted by the listing tomorrow. If there's any confusion or limited access to your shares, as Kim has just mentioned, contact us. And then later this week or midweek, we are already on discussions with our OTC symbol, which will upgrade the US symbol. That is a process where you have to list first on a Canadian or an international exchange before you can upgrade your OTC symbol. So we will likely give an update towards our OTC path, if not the end of this week, sometime in the following week. And we expect that symbol to be achieved within 4 to 6 weeks based on past experiences from taking companies Canadian first and applying for OTC symbols. So look forward to more information on that, but do contact us if you do have any issues with your shares or your account.
Thank you. And from Mario Vitro, the 2-point question, the 50-cent round, when does the 4-month hold expire? That expires, the 4-month and a day hold expires September 17th. The second is, will there be co-listing in the US and Germany?
Yeah, we've answered that first part already a couple times. We will look to upgrade our US symbol. And if we do make the discovery and we are extremely well funded on the backside of a discovery, then we'll pursue the NYSE Amex listing. And just for everyone's benefit, on an NYSE Amex listing, that's an extra $1 million Canadian a year, including D&O insurance and the various filings that are involved to go and get that listing. The Toronto Stock Exchange should be very accessible both in Europe, and it should be accessible in the US to US investors. But we certainly have the optimism in our exploration that we could get into that position, but we're going to be very prudent with our spend to make sure as much money as possible is going to the drill bit, because that's what's going to benefit shareholders of this company the most.
Thank you. And those are all the questions that we have right now.
Great.
Not sure if
Thank you.
Mark
And
had anything else you wanted to ask, or if that's it.
Ivan, as usual, well done, concise, succinct, and direct to the point. Great presentation. Look forward to tomorrow and seeing where the dust all settles. But no doubt you've got enough in the pipeline to deliver a lot of news flow over now in the next, I guess, till the end of the year.
yeah, thank you, Mark. I mean, the fact that we're actually drilling is critical for me, and what we're seeing is extremely encouraging and exciting. And I think that's the most important thing to take away from this if you're in a shareholder. The second other part you want to take home with this call today and this update is our financial position. Numerous juniors are in rough shape financially. Numerous companies are starting to get bought. You're starting to see a consolidation in the sector. This company has the longevity to get into 2026, which, whether we're hitting right away and getting paid for it or not, we have plenty of capital. We have a big marketing budget to make sure this company performs very well with our findings. If you're not on our email list, and if you want to follow us actively, I'll be doing constant interviews, talking about the drilling, talking about adjustments to strategy, talking about various findings, what we're seeing at different parts of the project. The best way to do that would be to come to our website, coppernicometals.com. And on the website, you'll be able to follow all my recent interviews and add yourself to the mailing list if you want to get direct information. I'm also very public on LinkedIn with points of view across our company, as well as on Twitter. So you can find me on LinkedIn under Ivan Bebek, or Twitter Ivan Bebek 71. You can reach me on both of those as well. And I'm accessible at any time a shareholder has a question, as is my team. Margarita Cordona is our VP Investor Relations, or Manager of Investor Relations for the company. She's very accessible when I'm tied up with calls and roadshows, but we will be very prompt with responses to any questions anyone has. And for those of you who have waited this long, thank you so much for your patience. For those of you who have recently funded us to get through the final stages, including tech, thank you for believing in us. We really appreciate the support, but we have a job to do now, and the drill's doing it for us, and we're going to do our best to monetize this and hopefully be one of the next major copper finds in the world. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Mark and Kim and the team and the other financiers who helped us get here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan.
Great. Thank you very much.